Now, for more on the Britain unrest, we're joined by Ian Williams with Foreign Policy in Focus through Skype. Mr. Williams, thank you for joining us on World News. Prime Minister David Cameron has asked for help from U.S. officers. Is he going too far in this situation?
Well, yes, clearly. American society has never really advanced from its roots in 18th century Britain, and successive New Labour and Conservative governments have tried to regress of centuries of progress and to produce a vindictive policing system acting with impunity. And we have to remember these riots started because some policemen thought they had impunity and could shoot somebody down on the streets, which is not the traditional British way of doing things. And that was the cause for the riots. Whether it excuses the behavior is another story. But this posturing ignores the fact that at the root of those riots is lawlessness in the highest places. The rioters who were interviewed and the people on the streets all remarked upon members of parliament stealing expenses off the taxpayer, and mostly with impunity, although a few went to jail. They look at the bankers making billions of dollars and getting away with it. They look at Rupert Murdoch, the head of News International, hacking innocent people's telephones and getting away with it. So, I mean, basically the message that's being sent from the ruling classes of Britain is that the law is not there to be obeyed. So to start shouting that the lesser people, the people who steal televisions, should be locked up for life, whereas the people who steal whole industries and banks and countries should be given knighthoods and peerages for it, is not really a sustainable one on the streets, I suspect.
Well, Mr. Williams, let me ask you this. With the unrest that's going on, is Mark Duggan's death just a catalyst for people's anger towards social inequality in the UK?
I think it's a catalyst. And we have to remember that the explanation for an event is not always an excuse for those events. I mean, a lot of the behavior of the rioters has been inexcusable. Their targets have not been the rich. They have been poor shopkeepers. They have been, in some cases, minority groups. They have been people in their homes. So it's interesting that right across the board, people are saying the police should defend people against attacks like this. But the police have been engaging in almost sort of reservation policing. They've ignored these areas. They haven't gone into the poor areas to police them in a way which stops crime. The zero tolerance is not going to work unless you have policemen on the beat, on the ground. And ironically, of course, the Cameron government has introduced swinging public expenditure cuts, which actually cuts the resources available to the police force to do things like that. But it seems there will be money for water cannons, there will be money for prisons and vindictive sentences, and it's not going to solve the issue in the slightest. There's got to be an end to a culture of impunity, both for the rioters and for the people in authority, including policemen with guns who shoot down, I'm not sure innocent is the right word, but who shoot down somebody who, like Mark Duggan.
Well, Mr. Williams, I'm sure you've heard this saying. There's an old saying, hungry man is an angry man. How much of a gap do you think there is between the social classes currently in Britain?
Well, in Britain there is not active hunger. And I don't think hungry men are angry men. Hungry men are, it's people who feel they can see. They have the energy, they can see that things are available. I mean, at one time, the plutocrats could live their life without being observed. But now, with social media, with television, everybody's lifestyle is up for observation. And this gets people angry. They're sitting there, they have very little. They see other people with lots of things. And the means of actually getting those things, the type of skilled working-class jobs that used to exist in manufacturing, even university education. All of these things have just become more and more difficult with the cuts and with the restructuring of the British economy to follow the bankers' whims. So, yes, it's cumulative. There's a lot of anger there. And it doesn't excuse what they did, but it does explain it. And I think when you check the experience of the United States, it was not Rudy Giuliani who ended the crime wave in New York. It was the fact that the economy started booming under Bill Clinton. And government money was made available for police forces. Giuliani's part in this, apart from being vindictive and petty in public and also getting a lot of publicity for that, was very little. It was the fact that the economy turned, and you'll find in the United States that the crime waves and economic recessions tend to go along hand in hand. And here we've had a very concentrated example of that in London. People can't see any other way out, and they can see that the rulers have been able to get their way out of it. They've been able to make more money than ever before. Britain and the US are third world in the maldistribution of wealth, in the fact that a very small percentage are owning more and more of the wealth, and the majority are getting less and less of it.
Well, Mr. Williams, thank you for your input. Ian Williams with Foreign Policy in Focus, joining us on World News, giving us his views on the Britain unrest.